start at the very beginning, your impression overall of the call, Brian.
On February 16, 2009,
just the panic in their voices.
Sandra Harold made a desperate 911 call after her pet chimpanzee.
Or maybe that intruder, by the way, if we have non-responsive housemates, maybe that intruder brought something.
Travis viciously attacked her friend, Charla Nash. Travis, who had lived with Sandra for years, suddenly became violent. Nash had come to help after Travis took Sandra's car keys, but upon seeing Nash with his favorite toy, a Tickle Me Elmo, Travis went into a rage. Sandra screamed in panic as the chimpanzee attacked, ripping Charla's face apart. In a frantic voice, Sandra begged, "He's killing my friend." She tried to stop Travis by hitting him with a shovel and stabbing him with a knife, but nothing worked. Charla's condition was so severe that Sandra feared she was dead. Charla underwent hours of surgery and survived, but her life was changed forever. Travis was eventually shot by the police after Sandra gave the go-ahead. This horrifying incident raised questions about the dangers of keeping wild animals as pets and the emotional toll it took on everyone involved. Deborah Jeter. On June 5, 2009, Deborah Jeter made a chilling 911 call, confessing to the brutal murder of her two daughters, Kirsten and Kelsey. After being released from a mental institution, Deborah, who had been granted unsupervised visitation, took her daughters to an abandoned house in rural Hill County, Texas. There, she slit their throats. Kirsten first, and then Kelsey, who tried to run. With Kirsten still alive, Deborah called 911, urging them to hurry. Tragically, by the time help arrived, Kirsten was already in critical condition, but survived after surgery. Deborah, however, faced first-degree murder and attempted murder charges. The case left authorities puzzled about Deborah's true motives, and she later accepted a plea deal, receiving a life sentence without parole. The unanswered question remains, why did she commit such a horrific act? Donald Spirit. On September 18, 2011, Donald Spirit called 911 in a frantic state after killing his daughter, Sarah L.P., and his 6 grandchildren in a violent spree. Donald was enraged over a child support dispute with his daughter, which had resulted in a court ruling that she pay him $657. When she failed to comply, Donald shot and killed her and the children before calling 911 to report the murders. During the call, Donald casually stated, "They're all dead," and expressed his intention to take his own life. He calmly sat on the back steps, waiting for the authorities to arrive. True to his word, when the officers arrived, Donald Spirit took his own life. This brutal act shocked the community and left everyone questioning the depth of hatred and the dark motivations behind such a devastating act of violence. Newborn in trash. On August 26, 2014, a woman made a shocking 911 call from outside her home in Kiers after discovering a newborn baby abandoned in a trash can. At first, she thought she heard a cat, but upon checking, she found a baby in distress, struggling to breathe. She immediately called for help, describing the baby as a newborn with the umbilical cord still attached. The woman and her mother-in-law couldn't reach the baby, so a neighbor stepped in to help, pulling the baby out of the garbage. It was later discovered that the baby's mother, Alicia Marie Angler, had given birth in her parents' basement and discarded the child in the trash. Despite her actions, Alicia's mental health, including fetal alcohol syndrome, raised questions about her understanding of right and wrong. She was charged with attempted murder, but her competence to stand trial remains uncertain. Brandy Worley. On November 17, 2016, Brandy Worley made a haunting 911 call after murdering her 2 young children. The night before, her husband, Jason Worley, had filed for divorce, and Brandy was devastated. After playing with their 2 kids, ages 3 and younger, she decided to kill them while they slept. She used a knife to stab them to death, then attempted suicide by stabbing herself in the neck. Despite her own injuries, Brandy calmly called 911 and admitted to the murders. She explained that her husband wanted a divorce and was taking the children, which drove her to commit the horrific act. When asked how she felt, she showed no emotion, stating simply, "I took a lot." Brandy was later sentenced to 120 years in prison after pleading guilty to 2 counts of murder. Eric Berea. On February 5, 2018, Eric Berea made a desperate 911 call after being shot 7 times by his wife, Lisa Berea, during a heated argument. The argument had started over an HOA complaint, with Lisa claiming Eric had threatened her life. In response, she retrieved a gun from the garage and shot him multiple times. Despite his severe injuries, Eric managed to call 911 for help, expressing fear for his life. The dispatcher stayed on the phone with him, guiding him through the situation. During the call, Lisa continued to argue with Eric, which led the dispatcher to advise her not to engage with him. When the police arrived, they found Lisa on the floor, having shot herself in the leg. The case revealed a tragic series of events fueled by a domestic dispute, leaving both parties wounded and forever changed. 5-year-old's call. On March 28, 2005, a 5-year-old girl, Tia Hine, made a heartbreaking 911 call after waking to find both her parents dead in a pool of blood. Tia had heard gunshots in the night and rushed to her parents' room, where she discovered her father, Anas Hain, and her mother, Julie Morgan Hain, lifeless on the floor. Tia, terrified, described the scene to the dispatcher, saying there was blood everywhere, and she believed her parents were dead. Despite her fear, she remained calm while speaking to the dispatcher, who tried to keep her reassured. The investigation revealed that David E. Johnson, a former acquaintance of Julie, had broken into the house and shot both of them with a 9mm gun. He later took his own life. This tragic incident left Tia orphaned and raised questions about the failed protective measures, as Julie had previously tried to get a restraining order against Johnson. Jake's confession. On March 15, 2017, Jake Hain, a 17-year-old, called 911 after murdering his mother, Julie Morgan Hain, and his sister, Hannah Hine, in a chilling act of violence. Jake had been obsessed with the movie Halloween and had planned the murders for a while. He initially grabbed a knife, but ultimately chose a .22 caliber revolver from his grandfather's home to carry out the killings. Jake invited his sister to watch a movie before shooting her dead, and when his mother rushed downstairs, he shot her twice. After committing the murders, Jake calmly called 911 and confessed to the dispatcher, saying he wasn't angry, but that it just kind of happened. When asked if he had any reason for his actions, Jake responded that he had been planning to kill for some time. The call ended with him agreeing to surrender to the police. Jake was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to 45 years in prison. 9/11's call. On September 11, 2001, during the horrific terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center, Melissa Doe, a senior manager at IQ Financial Systems, made a haunting 911 call from the 83rd floor of the North Tower. As smoke and heat filled the air, Melissa struggled to breathe and desperately tried to stay calm while speaking to the dispatcher. She reported that the floor was completely engulfed, and the heat was unbearable, making it difficult for her to breathe. The lights were still on, but smoke began to fill the room. As Melissa became overwhelmed by the heat and smoke, she asked the dispatcher to set up a 3-way call with her mother to say goodbye, but the dispatcher was unable to do so. After 24.5 minutes, the call ended abruptly as the floor beneath Melissa's gave way. Tragically, she perished in the collapse, and her remains were not found until 3 years later. Her final moments, captured on the 911 call, serve as a chilling reminder of the terror faced by those trapped in the towers. Charles Foster. On March 6, 2015, Charles Hendrick Foster made a disturbing 911 call after stabbing his wife in a violent outburst. Foster admitted to punching and stabbing his wife, Chorus, because she had brought alcohol into their home, which angered him. During the call, he sounded belligerent and even demanded that the dispatcher shut up as he explained what he had done. Foster's violent confession shocked the dispatcher, who tried to stay calm and guide him through the situation. When asked if he had any weapons, Foster abruptly ended the call. He made 2 more calls, but by then, the police were already on the scene. Upon their arrival, Foster was found sitting outside, covered in blood, and his wife was severely injured, gasping for air. Foster was arrested and charged with second-degree attempted murder, later receiving a 10-year sentence. This story is just the beginning. Don't miss our next video, the brutal murder case that took decades to solve. You won't want to be left behind on this one. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you're always in the loop with our latest true crime stories. You won't regret it.